All right, guys, one more time. Here's their hype. Woo! The recap is now in full effect here. Hey, Ashley, look what I still have on. Look at yours. I have not taken this off, Dan.
Are you kidding me right now?
That might be a sleep hazard.
It's got me through TSA and everything, buddy. This is so important.
That's
Here.
it. You just look at that and like, oh, that's it. You're good. You're cleared. Come on through.
That's it. Exactly right. Well, hey, I'm here with my peeps. You know, we got Ashley, Kendra, Dan, and Rob in the house here today. We're going to give you a recap of what happened last week, some epic event in Margaritaville. Hey, Dan, I'm going to let you take it away in the beginning, buddy, because you're the mastermind behind this, and we all have to agree. Time out. Before we even say anything else, let's give Dan an applause, man. Tell you what, Dan. No, dude, without you, brother, man, this would never happen, buddy.
Man, I appreciate that. I always feel a little awkward, but I definitely got plenty of that at the event. But I do appreciate it for sure. So it's an amazing event. And I don't know, I'm like, you're still wearing that. You probably haven't even slept yet, Shark. I mean, how hyped up you were through this entire event and how you were able to jump in and help me out, carry a couple sessions. I am grateful for that and everything that you guys have done. I mean, honestly, Ashley, Kendra, great meeting you in person. And the support that both of you brought to this, tremendous. And Rob, obviously your promotional stuff to the run up for this was kind of made it possible. So I appreciate you guys all being here.
Absolutely.
I love it. So we just want to take a deep dive in, guys, from the beginning, from like the intro to Diane getting up there getting the vibe right off the bat till the end.
I loved it, honestly. So for those that didn't get to attend, one, go get tickets for next year. But two, the stand up GPT stand up GPT was an absolute smash hit. Diane Prince literally put into ChatGPT this prompt: write me a stand-up comedy sketch based on what you know about me and my target audience. And she came out and delivered it during our welcome reception. And there was a lot of great things that came out of it. But the funniest thing for me personally is that our industry is safe from the robots. We're not going to get taken over by AI because they're just way too logical to get into an industry like staffing. And I just thought that, hey, I felt safe and cozy based on that sage advice right there.
Mm-hmm. So funny.
It was awesome. What'd you think, Kendra?
Oh, I was cracking up through her entire routine, and the fact that she was brave enough to come do that live with all of us and had it down was awesome. The comedic timing, all of it was so cool.
It was cool. I got to tell you. And something else, she roasted me too on it, which was like, oh, come on. She gave me a tip. She's like, I'm going to roast you tonight. I'm like, what are you going to say?
You know, you made it when you start to get roasted by comedians.
Right.
Oh, I don't know about that. What do you think, Rob?
He's muted. He's censored. He brought the R-rated version of it. So we've
censored him. Muted. That's so weird. Anyway, I agree 100%. It's fantastic. By the way, Dan, everyone walked up to me and they were like, you look so familiar. And I was like, biting my tongue. I was like, that's because I invade your LinkedIn space.
Yeah. I just created my profile on LinkedIn last week. You might have seen that.
But I didn't say it. I just kept laughing. I was like, oh man, I just have that face. Just, generic white guy face. That's cool.
I actually get that all the time. But so Shark, I got to mention though. So it's not entirely the beginning. Yes, technically on the agenda, the welcome reception was the beginning, but I think we're missing something. Ashley and Rob actually put on a pre-event roundtable, and they brought in some leaders just to talk kind of strategy and kind of game plan a bit prior to the event. I unfortunately didn't get to attend that because I was dealing with some event logistics. So why don't y'all tell me about how that went?
I'm so glad you mentioned it, Dan. It was incredible. So I started this series, this exec break series, October of last year with Cloud Call. So we really want to establish these meaningful connections, and we're a communications platform. So how can we bring that to our industry in a way that really makes impact? And it's not just like we talked about adding to the noise. For me, it was so interesting hearing people at different levels of the business, both on the supplier, technology side, industry expert side. Kendra was there, Rob was there. Talk about how our perception of human work versus AI work is different, and it's evolving, and how we can really use that as a superpower. We also started talking about, and this carried through the whole conference, but this idea of hyper targeted segmentation and
Yeah.
how we can lean into creating more thoughtful approach with our sales process. So Rob, Kendra, what did you think?
Well, one of the highlights for me was one of the staffing owners getting a little vulnerable and saying, hey, we hired this amazing marketing woman and I think we set her up to fail and had to let her go 6 months later. And one of the reasons he was attending and was so keen to even come to the roundtable was because he wanted to learn from that and understand what he should be doing differently. I'm like, man, that's why we, kudos to Cloud Call, kudos to you guys for making this happen, because that's why we want to get staffing owners around a table to have conversations so they can learn from each other's mistakes. So that was awesome. And it really, that same energy shined bright the entire time during Staffing Summit, which was really cool to see. Yeah, folks were not bashful about sharing their mistakes and their wins.
For sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
Which I think is so cool to see, because I think it can, a lot of times it's competitors, tech could be, right? You could be in the same industry, but when we come together in this type of environment, we're all on the same team. We're all working towards the same goal and growth for our industry and optimization. So yeah, I couldn't agree more, Kendra.
And several guests from the West Coast, man. Folks made the trip.
Oh, yeah.
You got a crowd from all over, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was amazed at how many people from California and like up in Washington. It's incredible to me to make that trip to come to the opposite corner of the country to be here for this.
Well, you know what happens next year, Dan? International, right?
International. We've talked about, maybe not to that jump just yet, but we have floated the idea, and I don't know if it's going to be next year or when, but we've floated the idea of maybe splitting it and doing a West Coast summit. There's a really nice Margaritaville down in San Diego. So who knows?
Sign us up.
I love it. Hey, Rob, I got to ask you, man, what'd you feel like standing up there, buddy, being a little celebrity now?
What, doing the stand-up GPT?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, listen, I was a high school teacher for 7 years, Rich. Like, nothing is worse than being judged by a bunch of like 16 and 17-year-olds. The adults I can deal with. No, and I like Dan, to be completely fair, like as I was reading the script, I was changing it if it didn't make sense. So it wasn't like the pure read. I was like, that's not going to be funny. It definitely doesn't make sense. So I would tweak it on the fly. And I do think that I was like, who did I say? I think I said this to you, Rich. I was like, I want to do improv training.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like, I think improv training is so important for recruiters and salespeople. Like, point in case, like my ability to just be like, oh, I can just add like 2 things here and on the fly and just make more sense. Yeah. And so it was pretty natural. Definitely need to work on the pause. I don't have Kevin Hart's facial expressions.
No.
Or John Mulaney's like deadpan slapstick. Or Will Ferrell's hair in Zoolander, but I can get there. I think
you'll find your niche. You'll find.
I think I can get there.
You will, Rob.
Well, the improv thing's interesting, right? Because Robert Reed from Butler Street, he absolutely crushed it. Like his session was one of my favorites, and he shared that that's something he's done, and it was evident. I mean, first of all, it was energetic, engaging, and hilarious, and we needed that because it was like the first session, the last day of the summit. So he was right on time with that.
I mean, there might be a case, Dan, where we have to do like an improv workshop at Staffing.
Ooh,
improv selling. I love it.
I think that we would get Robert Reed back for that. He's so passionate about that. And I know after the last summit, he actually shared me some links. There's actually, I think there's a theater not far from you, Rob, that has improv classes. He said,
they're in Davie. Actually, I've contemplated it, and then there's someplace in Miami. One of my best friends actually went through it in Miami.
Robert mentioned the one in Miami.
Yeah, like 2 years ago, my buddy went through it, and I went to his final performance, and it was fantastic. But that's like driving to Miami during a weekday is part of the inferno that Dante wrote back in the Middle Ages.
Literally soul-crushing traffic.
Yeah, so I can't do that to my soul. If I was in the Inferno and I was in the Seventh Circle, that would be Miami driving during the weekday.
Well, and let's not forget the improvised karaoke slideshow PowerPoint.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Pedro got pooped on.
Oh man, I felt so bad seeing his slide for the first time completely just derail. Like he went from talking about tips to use social media to, I think, more fiber in your diet. I don't know. But that
Sometimes
dude,
you
he
get
rolled
dumped
with it.
on.
He was
It was-
slinging it.
Sometimes you just get dumped on, and he kept going back to it, and I felt so bad. I was like,
Yeah.
Pedro.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
At least Carson, when she saw the slide that was like she didn't want anything to do with it, she's like, yeah, I'm just gonna move on with this one. I'm just gonna move right past this. And she just knew when to say no. And I think that's why she brought home the trophy and the golden ticket there. So
So much fun,
But-
man. I love it. How about Rochelle? Let's throw out Rochelle. I mean,
Oh.
wasn't that exercise amazing?
Oh, wow.
I mean, seriously.
I've been thinking about it every hour of the day. I'm like, what is my emotional programming that I'm trying to fix?
Mhm.
my mind blowing, man. She stood in front of the room first thing, and this is a gamble. So think about this. She's not from the staffing industry. But she is a sales, just absolute, badass, if I can say that. I don't know, but
Is there anything you want?
but she performed brain surgery in the room first session. And I'll tell you, you know what I was blown away by? Like, I had no clue that we all viewed the future timeline and past timeline in different directions. Like, you just kind of go through life and you just think that wherever you would point is where you point. But when I was looking at the room, like, everyone's pointing in different directions. I was like, wow, I was blown away. Her session was just, that was transformational right from the get.
Wait, so now I want to know which way does mine? I go left to right, like kind of
Yeah,
on a forward angle.
Up, down.
You were up, down. Interesting, Kendra.
Yeah, I actually went head and heart. So
Oh, look at you.
Look at that. Of course.
Man, that was pretty deep in the knee. We're going this way.
head.
I'm like the most basic. I was just literally like just forward and back. Like, this is it. Like, I don't know.
Well, I want folks to be able to find Rochelle. So it's Rochelle Carrington, and her tagline's from sabotage to success. And it was just an incredible hour. And I'm so grateful, Dan, that you found her and brought her into the group.
Yes.
I overheard a couple women in the washroom later that day saying how they both were just kind of like, what is this exercise? What are we doing? And by the end, they were completely bought in, had taken notes, and wanted to sign up for her coaching. So kudos to you for
I think
taking
David
the risk.
Falwell signed up while we were sitting there for coaching.
I'm telling you what, she's
good.
no joke. To the stuff that she does. And that's why, so for those people that aren't familiar with the summit and didn't attend last year, our leadoff session is always on mindset. Because if you don't get your mind right, nothing else matters. The tactics, the strategies, you won't get the value or the benefit out of it. You got to have your mind right to win in this game. And we had Tom Erb lead off with mindset of a successful salesperson last year. And then we brought in Rochelle, who that's exclusively what she does, is really a mindset coach for the top producers in the world. So she was fantastic.
I have the gratitude journal sitting on my desk.
Love it.
Look at
By the way,
you.
this is an Ashley Bolin OG sticker.
Wow. Little endorsement.
Wow.
Rocket.
We got the podcast on the top there, so that's
Very cool. Very cool.
Nice.
That's awesome. There were so many, even Kim Henderson. Let's throw her out there real quick. I mean, she had MSP alone, it was packed in there for that.
Yeah.
Which we all know about MSPs, what people think about them. And she just breaks it down like, oh.
Man,
I'll tell you what, this was Advanced Partners' first time attending Staffing Sales Summit. Won't be our last, right? You heard it here first. Will not be our last. We'll definitely be back next year. And we had to divide and conquer because the two sessions, one with Kim Henderson on MSPs and the other on social selling. Dan, please remind me of her name because she's fantastic.
Alexis Mesky.
Yes. Aura Marketing.
Awesome.
I mean, and the feedback when we came back together, our team came back together and talked about it. Both those sessions were so good.
Yes.
Yeah, I will tell you, Kim and I were strategizing prior to the event. And I'm like, Kim, I think we should really do something on MSPs. And she's like, I don't know. That's like a really controversial topic in this industry, And I'm like, I get it, but it's like, they're trying to MSPs they have these big game plans to infiltrate middle market. Most of the people coming to the summit sell into the middle market, So it's like, I feel like we need to be a step ahead. And she reluctantly said, okay, I'm going to break down the whole playbook on how to get into MSPs. And she's just got this is why she was one of the top rated speakers last year. She just has a way of literally breaking things down into bullet points that you can just write down and be like, okay, my plan is set. Now I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other and execute. And based off last year, there was a team of people that said her session alone and what she taught on SOW gave them a 6 to 10x ROI for the cost of their entire team coming out to the summit last year. Flights, lodging, the whole tickets, the whole 9. That's why they brought their whole team back this year is because of that. So she's incredible just in general, like how she teaches.
She is good. And then there's some other ones like Joey. Joey had a great performance. I mean,
Oh my God. I'm not gonna lie. I gotta go. So since we're on live, I gotta say this out loud. I felt the worst about Joey because he got hit with the AV issue, right? I felt so bad about that. So that being said, I made this. He's gonna do this, and I guess we'll announce this. Keep an eye on inbox for the actual dates of this, because I felt so bad that Joey got hit with the AV tech issue, and that you always want things to go smoothly, and for the most part, it did. But he really got hit. We're gonna bring him back on. It'll be webinar style. But we're going to give him a redo, a mulligan on being able to present his session from front to back with no AV issues. We're actually going to do a summit encore. So we're going to bring Joey back, Mark Winter, all the questions that he got. We ran out of time.
Yes,
so we're going to bring him back with a longer session. And then we're going to bring back Mike Bradbury, who maybe we can talk about next, and Alexis Mesky, and put their sessions back to back, because that's really the two parts of social selling that people need to be focusing on. So we're gonna do a summit encore day here in the next month or so.
I love that. I think Alexis's tactical session was great. I got to go back and like make sure I'm an audit, right? And I've been posting on social media, but I was posting on social media on LinkedIn since 2019 consistently, and I learned a bunch. So
yeah, same.
Yeah, she was great.
A lot.
100%.
Yeah, I still have like 100 pictures of just, the slides, taking pictures, and I'm super excited to watch back the recordings. But when you're like, oh, I definitely want to like make sure I capture this bit, and so now I have to figure out how to organize those.
Speaking of all your pictures, how did you get the picture of me? I was just goofing around with this one, and then you put the collage. I was like, how did you even get this picture? Who took that?
I don't even know, because I think it was whoever was taking the picture of the table, but I got it and I'm keeping
Uncensored
it.
Dan, look at you. I see now. I was like, oh, Dan.
Can't take me anywhere.
That's all right, Dan. I have some photos of Ashley on the slingshot that you can use.
Oh yeah.
Your smile is so big. You're so happy. And I just am like looking like I'm praying to anything that'll listen.
So Kendra, let's break this down real quick, because after hours, you guys went on a slingshot. Did you dare Ashley to go on it?
I kind of didn't understand how scared she was and just said we're doing it.
Can I call time out? She sold Ashley on doing it.
She's so weird.
So it's funny. I didn't know y'all went over there. So obviously you all know, like when I go to the summit, two things. One, I bring my family with me. So when the day's done, I head back, family time. But then also, like, I got to recharge the batteries because I know I got to bring it the next day. But somebody texts me that video. They text me that night of y'all in the slingshot, and they go, I guarantee you this will be the most talked about video tomorrow. So I was like, man, there it is. Getting it.
So much fun.
We set the bar now, Dan. We're going to have to go.
Oh,
Everybody has to. I have the video of us like in the ride, like where it recorded us going up. So I'll share it on LinkedIn later.
the picture is, it's priceless. You have Kendra there smiling like, and you have Ashley there going like praying
to God.
Like night and day.
There's a sales 101 lesson in there, because I'm telling you, I walked into the office and started talking to her like she was already a client of mine. We have what you need. Come with me. Let's go.
I got you. I got the trust in Kendra is there.
Exactly.
And it was after happy hour too. I'm like, come on, girls. Woo. Daredevils for sure.
Dan, if we push it,
twice.
Dan, if we push it back, Universal holds Mardi Gras. We could just all go out to the park and do like a little field trip.
They are. I've been to Universal during Mardi Gras. That's actually fun. Their floats and parades are pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's actually, they do a pretty good job with that. I was getting there on the timing because I don't want to bump up too close to exec forum. Right?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
I respect SI in the space they have. I know we sort of serve two different audiences, sort of, but yeah.
No, it's fair. I think I will have to say the people who attended were fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of the audience,
High energy. I mean, everybody just loved everybody. Seriously, it was like learning. It was like a sorority fraternity group. Seriously.
Yeah.
We're all friends
was-
for life now.
That's true. It's true. And I got to give a shout out to Mike Bradbury, who really 2 weeks notice. You know, I know that Ashley Watts really wanted to be here and had to make, you know, what I think anyone would consider a tough decision, but the right choice. She made, you know, prioritizing her family, and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I've got to bow out, but here's this guy, Mike Bradbury, who I had never heard of, you know." And she's like, "He's really good. He's good at presenting." 2 weeks notice, he was available and said, "Okay, I'll make this work." And he came down, and I think he did a tremendous job, you know, kind of talking about social selling and the LCM model. And so that was another one too. I'm grateful that he was able to make that work and we got that space backfilled instantly.
Well, you know why he was so good, Dan. He went to Penn State just like me. That's why.
That's what it is.
Boy.
I knew there was something. I knew there must be something.
You know what's funny is when you booked him, he sent me a letter and he sent an email. And he said, "We are Penn State." Thinking, I didn't even know who this guy was. And then now we're like best friends.
He really is, man. He was practicing what he preached. He did all those connections and obviously highlighted some of it.
Yeah.
And it's funny. One of my salespeople that was there was like, "That guy reached out to me, but because I didn't know him, I didn't respond to him."
Yeah. Well, he showed me how he used Sales Navigator. So before the show, he put all of the attendees into a group on Sales Navigator. And it's just so smart. I want him to do a follow-up. And now you said we're
I
going
gotta
to
do that.
an encore, a follow-up where he's showing tactically how he's utilizing Navigator. It was brilliant. So
I
excited
really need an AI agent to do that for me, though. I went through every attendee today, Dan, and like just sent a connection request if we weren't connected, and it took way too long. So I'm sure an AI agent can go and fix that for me at some point.
Yeah. Let me know. Let me know what you discover.
All right.
There's
So
a
here
lot
we
of
go.
work.
AI
I got it
agents.
done.
Now, if you get a connection request from Rob Man, you know it's not really the man behind the mic here.
Yep. Rob's already
Send it
spamming
to
everybody. I'm just messing. Hey, before we go any further, I got to mention this. We got to reach out to this. Look at this box that we got.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you never get this anywhere else, do we? I mean, seriously, look at this thing.
Top
This
notch.
bag was
It's
fantastic.
really good. Yeah.
And hold up, we're going to open it up here because people
Oh,
Yeah,
are
we
going
gotta do
to
an
unboxing
unpacking?
going.
All right.
I love it.
Let's do an unpacking, Rich. Go ahead.
Stanley Cup, the whole thing. Yes.
There's incredible stuff here. Look at this.
So we got a
Beach
So-
towel.
courtesy of
So
Advanced
Sharp,
Kit.
hold up 1 second before you go any further. I want to talk about this. So you know this because you were involved last year. But when we put together the swag bag, it's thoughtful swag and it's a bit thematic. So last year it was about the topic introducing the summit. The salespeople carry the bag. That's the cliche, right? That's what we talk about. So we put all the stuff in there that was like, what does a salesperson need on the go? So it was a laptop bag. It was the charger, which I don't have mine right here. But it's all the things that you would need to be on the go with sales and go crush your goals. This year's theme was, now that you've crushed your goals, now you got to go to the beach. So that's where these things were. That's where these things
okay.
are at. So keep going with this. There's
Well,
our
Dan,
themes.
I have the original bag because you gave it to me, so I have the charger.
There it is.
I have
That
the
bag's
bag.
handy too. I've used it a lot of times.
Yeah.
Tom Erb said he still uses that's his primary bag for.
If I go
for
to Europe, this will be my bag
travel.
for sure.
I mean, look at this.
Dan,
thing.
shout out who'd you use for the boxing?
For the boxing.
Yeah, to get the box printed, and did you stuff them in house or did
She's
you?
gonna steal
Yeah,
it.
so
Just
this
just
is,
know that
this
that's
is-
happening.
This is great. So I have really good friends, the Ariel Rivero, who they are brilliant graphic designers, and his wife Vanessa, and they were like, "Hey, we've had the best luck with Pack Lane." So I went to Pack Lane, designed the box, had them shipped. But as far as actually stuffing the boxes, family affair. My kids get super excited. They actually packed the swag bags last year, and they've talked about it all year long. They're like, "Are we going to pack bags again?" Like, they really love it. And so we actually, my 3 children actually helped me pack the boxes and get everything set up. They were so fired about it. They're actually the ones that put the golden tickets in 2 of the boxes that were kind of given away this year. So yeah. Family business though on that side. I got to say that is illegal.
I love it. Look, the famous book. I mean, to write notes in. I mean, look at this.
I got this one that was left behind at the
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Is there some dirty notes in there?
Literally, Dan messages me and he's like, "I think I found your notebook." And I don't even think I have my name in it.
It did not have your name in it.
Were you?
I knew it was yours because it just said there was no notes for my actual session. I was
Like-
like, oh, that must be
You know who that was?
must be
Hey,
Ashley.
look at this.
Right down from the Metrics That Matter session.
Hey,
Yeah.
Dan, how big is this for
I can't.
coffee?
Pictures.
This
That's
is
a
water
Richard.
to stay
that's a
hydrated at the
dark
beach,
cup of
man.
coffee.
Water to stay hydrated at the beach. This is it right here. You know, you
Man.
gotta when you go to the beach, man, you got to have a nice tumbler with a lot of water to stay hydrated. That's on theme here.
Yeah, definitely full of water.
I don't drink coffee at the beach.
We definitely believe you that that's full of H2O, Dan.
Well, I'll tell you what, the box was incredible, guys. I seriously, the whole thing, and I got it in the airplane. I don't know if you guys took it home like that. I just, cradled it and ran off with it. And they didn't say a word either. I was like, because I had this on, by the way. That's why.
Kendra, great seeing you.
Yeah, Kendra, thank
See
you.
you soon, Kendra.
And Shark, I'll
Thanks,
tell you, my kids love the Easter egg with putting your logo just under the surface in the box. They were like, "This is so cool! You open it up, you pull the stuff out, and then you can see the shark down there." I'm like, "Yeah, it's shark's
I
just
know.
beneath the surface." So they were
Yeah, that was cool. I did like that a lot.
yeah.
I did like that.
What's
Appreciate
that
it.
other logo on the lid there, Richard? What's that other logo there?
Oh, hold on. Let's go around here and see them.
Just
Haley,
Haley.
Sybil VMS and Cloud
right
Call.
there.
Yeah.
And then look at this.
Ooh.
What is that? Cloud Call. So
breaking it out right there.
and source well. The well and then the shark below. Love it.
There you go. I didn't even put that one together. That's pretty great. And that session was good. I had a lot of people actually super interested in that Sourcewell, the software. Basically, how do you actually utilize software to really manage those hyper-targeted campaigns? And it's something we've done for a while. Not Sourcewell just yet, but we've been super focused on hyper-targeted campaigns. I've got a pretty elaborate spreadsheet for that. But then I saw them, I'm like, hey, this is better than what I'm doing. And then we actually implemented it at the staffing company, and our team really enjoys it. And the management, they enjoy it even more because everything is centralized and they can actually see who their top performers are. And if something's working for one rep versus another, they can be like, hey, I'm just going to copy and paste this playbook and just put it right over. And that's actually, I had to step out during Scott's session. So I was bummed about that. But one of my favorite things is that, like, if you're hiring a new sales rep, like, you can just take the most successful playbook from your salespeople and just duplicate it and put that right to the new sales rep to kind of get them up to ramp quicker, which is every sales manager's stress point, is like, how quickly can we get people up, which is where for those in the room at the very end of the last session that I did on Metrics That Matter, like, we got right past Metrics That Matter and we were talking about how do you get salespeople up the ramp, how do you performance manage them, all those kind of things. So yeah, I think Sourcewell is a good tool to help on that side too.
Oh, big time.
I learned a lot from that session, Dan.
Yep. Scott's great. And I think the last person we didn't talk about yet was Mr. Herb, which is everywhere.
Oh, that was the
Good
fantastic.
old Tom,
The icon.
the icon.
His reputation precedes himself. I had made the comment that if, like, there was literally like a Mount Rushmore for, like, staffing speakers, his hat is right on there. He's just right there. So yeah, his session was amazing.
I mean, I got to tell you everything. Even the mixer. I'm going to throw that out there real quick. The mixer was fun. I think everybody attended. It was outside. We had so much fun live. When you has a chance, check it. It's on live on every platform. But yeah, Dan, I think around the whole event, the vibe, I still got the vibe going. I'm not going to lie. When I got to the airport, I still was like, Kevin, that vibe in your stomach and heart. Like, it's like, this is stuff you can use right now. I say this over and over again.
Yeah. With my team. So I'll say this, I'll tell you what, I took notes. There's stuff I'm going to be doing, but this is something I require of my team. I sent this out in an email prior that anybody that attended, especially if you're a manager and maybe you attended or you sent people, here's what you need to do to make sure that you get the full benefit on the tail end of this. Have whoever attended figure out what is their number one and two best takeaways, and then create a mini little presentation around it, and then teach it to your organization as a lunch and learn. And that way they're going to, one, show that they were paying attention, right? Which is important for leaders that send their people to these things. Two, they're going to internalize the knowledge at a different level. It should be the tactic that helps them address the most pressing challenge in the organization right now as far as sales goes, but then they can share it with the rest of the people and hope create that benefit organization wide. So we do the conference lunch and learn thing for years now, and this is no different. So all of our people now have our lunch and learn scheduled going out. So yeah, so that's just a way to get extra benefit out of the summit if you weren't able to attend, or maybe you sent some of your people.
I love that idea.
Look at this. We got some people shouts out. Tony Moore.
Tony Moore, man. Next year you got to get there, man. I know you kind of found out last minute, but you got to get there next year, Tony.
And of course, Steve Farrell. He loved it. He'll be going every year now. Good old
He was
Steve.
there, man, all the way across the country. Staff and Playbook. You know it. You were a great contributor. Audra.
There we go.
Yo. Hey, congratulations, by the way. Audra, I don't know if y'all saw this. Anyone see the interview with Audra in Staffing Monthly January?
Not yet.
No,
Not
yeah.
yet.
Go watch this interview. I was we connected on this is part of LinkedIn. I know we're going off topic, but we actually connected on LinkedIn. She found herself in a situation where a lot of people in the staffing industry did last year, kind of transitioning to a new role. Her company that she was with had to make some tough decisions. She was a casualty of that. It got put out there. I saw her backstory and I was like, holy cow, this is a really talented operator. And so I invited her to come on an interview. We went through absolutely probably one of the most detailed operational interviews that I've ever done. Like, this is somebody, like, when you meet somebody and they can tell you right down to the nth degree how to do something and why to do it. Like, and you're like, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. That was Audra. And we actually, through that interview process, she ended up getting discovered by another company. And I think they just hired her as like a director of operations or
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Yes.
I'm like,
Yeah, she's
Awesome.
I was
2
like-
months 2 months into a national director of branch operations role.
yeah.
That is amazing.
So it was incredible. And I'm like, they're lucky. Whoever snapped her up is super, super fortunate. So
Number one draft choice for sure.
yeah, it's a great interview. Anyone that's an operator in staffing, go to Staffing Monthly January, go find the interview with Audra. And it's great how she talks about management and metrics. And she's fantastic interview.
I love it. All right, Dan, is it time for the golden ticket?
Yes. So we actually just went through all of the commentary, the shares, the testimonials, all of the stuff that on the post from day one content of the summit. We put everybody's stuff into this big spreadsheet naturally and gave everybody a random number. And then we just randomized it and we picked 2 people at random. And the golden ticket winners, the final 2 free tickets for next year are,
Ladies and gentlemen,
the first one, it really could not actually go to a better success story, is actually Monty Montgomery,
Oh,
the gentleman that came off the mountain that had the big beard. Do you
the
remember
man
this
with the
dude?
beard.
It was so great. And I know that he's going to kill me for doing this, but I think it's the best story. He was skeptical. He saw the summit. He's like, what is this thing? He reached out to a bunch of the speakers and was like, is this legit? Is it worth going? Because he's coming from Seattle. That's a long way to go to Orlando, right? And
he actually is in East Washington, I think, Eastern Washington. So it's even more remote.
okay, he's out there. But we chatted, we got him set up. He made the trip down and was a great contributor, brought great energy to the entire event, was asking good questions, participating, was just a great guy to have in the community. And so he is selected randomly for one of the golden tickets. And the other one I thought was, again, a great full circle moment was Steve and Melissa Baduna, who they're the ones that actually attended Kim's session last year and were like blown away, and they put that into practice. So they brought their team back this year and they won a free ticket as well. So I think that's tremendous. So congratulations on golden tickets, all 6, technically 7 now, because we actually gave one to
Yes.
Rob and Anna McDonald for the Stand Up GPT. So we gave out 7 free tickets to the event next year, which, Rob, what are you going to do with yours? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, so I thought you and I at some point as we get closer, maybe, I don't know, you tell me when we could do this with the Shark and Ashley too, is we'll do some kind of competition. Maybe we'll make people submit a stand-up GPT.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that would be on point because that's how you got yours. So
That's
maybe
right.
put people out there, give them a little more prep time, and throw their stand-up GPT out there, and then we'll randomize and select a winner. That'd be fun.
Yeah, we could do like
Now
a
live.
In video.
yeah, have to. Well, and just so you guys know, I posted mine today, like we were talking about earlier about. I don't think we were live, but I've never gotten more actual watch time on a video on LinkedIn than posting my stand-up GPT that I did over last week with these guys. So Dan, we'll get a hashtag going, and we'll give away that ticket. We'll figure out the time frame. I don't know if we want to do it right, this month, but let's do it as we get closer next year, maybe January.
I love it. No, I love that 100%. And I actually just thought about something I wanted to share, kind of closing remarks, going back to why I wanted to talk about Mike Bradbury's session. So do you remember in Mike Bradbury's session about social selling, about the statistics around the day one mental list, right? And then he had the slide of talking about the Mentalist show. And I'm a huge play on words guy. That was like kind of a geek out moment for me. And it's like, you need to be on the day one Mentalist. So I think next year's entertainment for day one is actually going to be a mentalist. I know a great corporate mentalist in the Orlando area. So how funny will that be if we actually have a day one mentalist during our to play on words from Mike Bradbury session this year? So stay tuned for that.
Woo, a little sneak peek.
Sounds like we got
That's
some
unique.
sales recruiting improv lessons going on. And
We're going to literally have a full pre-event day before the summit even kicks off next year. Round tables,
Oh,
day one.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion.
Live. Here we go.
Can we add on like a golf outing?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Or a pickleball tournament, Ashley. You know, for those of us that don't.
I don't like rackets. Maybe.
What about a cornhole tournament right there?
Oh, I like cornhole. Yeah.
I thought that's what the Shark was going to do at
That's
the
a good idea.
tailgate or at the beach party we had. Shark
this
missed
year.
out.
Next year.
Next
I'm
year
okay
for
with
sure.
golf. There's a lot of great golf courses in the area.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you know what? We've got a year to plan. Cloud Call, you're going to be on the partner call here next month, and we'll take all those ideas and then we'll start putting everything together to bring. And I'm going to shout out David Stearns for this. Talking about the 5-star, 6-star, 7-star. Obviously, last year was 5-star. I think everyone says this is a 6-star event. Next year, we got to go 7-star event. So we'll be having all of our partners coming together, sharing their thoughts and feedback so we can deliver that to the people that show up.
Two things about David. So number one, the first day he was like, I'm looking for a pickleball court. So he's on board with me.
Here we go.
Well,
two votes already.
Could not find one. I was like, hey, if you find one, I'll come play in the morning. Like, just tell me the time. Second, we didn't mention this, but how good was his brand building differentiation presentation, and how delicious was it all at the same time?
It was such a great show of like storytelling to prove a point, right? It was.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that. His was one of those sessions that I actually really reflected on, because in the moment when he's talking about the story of Gideon's cookies and how they create some scarcity and exclusivity by only offering certain cookies at certain times, or only offering to warm up a cookie at a certain time of day, I was like, man, how do you apply that mindset to staffing? Like, how do you be like, sorry, you can only get civil engineers at 8:00 on a Monday, right? Like, how do you do that? And he mentioned that he had a client at one point that would say, hey, if you want A players, you're going to pay A prices. And if you don't want to pay A prices, then you're going to get, less than A players. And I think that's a hard conversation for staffing salespeople to have sometimes, but I really thought more about it after reflecting on it. And I think the message that he was really conveying goes to what you just said, Ashley, was about the story that we really, as owners, as leaders, I think we need to take a step back, and we really need to get back to why are we doing what we're doing? Why is staffing so important and meaningful to us? Why is this a worthwhile mission to carry out for our clients, and figure out ways to tell that story and then start to connect it to what we do, like Gideon's has done with their cookies. And so that one definitely, it hit home for me.
Yeah. So that hit home for me too, Dan, because about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, I was having a conversation with a founder, and we were like, hey, you need to tell your story about why you got this business started. And he's like, because I thought I could do it better and make more money. And we were like, we're not going to tell that story. But
maybe manufacture a new one.
Yeah, or like why you kept it going. Like, it doesn't even have to be the founding story. It could be like the continuation, but there needs to be a personal story around, or even if like Gideon's is completely fabricated. It's
everybody likes a story, guys. Staffing Sales Summit, we have 2 stories there.
Yeah, the Shark's got a story.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I know for me, when I got into staffing, there was actually a legitimate reason behind it, and it's. I don't know about y'all's background and upbringing, but I came from a working class family. And, when I was raised as a kid, I came from a town that went through ups and downs, economic hit. And there was times where the entire town was laid off because they were very dependent on the major employer in the area. And it's like, as a very young kid, I learned how important work is to a livelihood, to a well-being, mental health, and, and how people would complain if they didn't have work, and how hard it was to find work. And when they did find work, it was so great. And like they could, kind of put food on the table again to keep the lights on. And you hear how important that actually is for people. And that really is the fabric of our entire society, is finding out what is the work that we can do to provide for our families and our lifestyle. And that was something that, always motivated me that the importance of work and the work that we can do is really defining. I don't agree that we as Americans define ourselves so much by what we do that it becomes one of the first 3 questions you ask. What is your name? Where are you from? What do you do? It becomes kind of our personality. So I'm like, I don't love it, but it is the nature of who we are. And I recognize that as a young kid. So for me, getting into staffing, being able to have some influence over helping people connect to their work, to grow an organization and be able to put people into good roles that they might not have otherwise been able to find on their own there's few things that are more noble or meaningful as that, in my opinion. So I'm blessed to be part of this industry, and I'll do everything I can to give back to this industry.
Have you told that story before?
Beautiful.
What's that?
Have you told that story before?
Only in small circles, and now I guess with how
out for the world, man.
It's out there. So,
but
after David's session, I realized that I need to tell it more.
Yeah, you need to tell that more.
I don't think many of my clients know that story and why that's so important to me.
I mean, that's like,
Really.
Shark, you're in West Virginia, or you're PA,
Pennsylvania.
Right?
So you really want to know this? I grew up in the poorest, crime-ridden town in Pennsylvania, Uniontown, PA.
Was it a like a single like steel mill?
No, just right foothills of the mountains. So we had like factories. My dad worked in a factory for 38 years. So blue collar.
Yeah, if that factory goes out, like Dan said, right? Like how many people in that town are
there? It's right now it's depressed as can be. But I actually worked in a factory during college, and he told me to get an education. He said, I don't want you to beat yourself up for 38 years. So that's something that down the road, I think we all have stories, and this is something maybe I'll have a podcast with the stories because we all come from different lives.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Shark. That's what my that's what my dad told me, because like when we were growing up, your eyes are on the factory job, like that's how you get in. And he looked at me and was like, "Do not ever go." He's like, "If you ever go work for a factory," he goes, "just don't do it." I can't even repeat what he said, but he's like, "Just don't do it because you'll destroy your body." He's like, "Figure out." He's like, "There's 2 things I need you to figure out. Figure out how to make a living with your mind, and then figure out how to make your mark on the world." And So I was forbid from working in a factory because of what it did to him and the experience he had with it. But it's meaningful work. It doesn't mean that the work is any less meaningful. But It's funny that you shared that same story because I think my dad told me the same thing.
And the biggest thing at the end, never forget where you came from. My dad taught me that. Do not think you're better than anybody else. If you become success is what you make it. But at the end of the day, don't forget the people along the way.
Yeah, absolutely right, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, Dan, you definitely need to tell that story more.
Yes.
Well, after the Gideon cookies and David Stern's inspiring that, making me reflect on that, we're going to start to work on how do we actually, craft that and let people know that is, my origin story into this space. So, but man, we're way over. I think you said 15 minutes. Can we jump
15 minutes turn into 43 minutes. I tell you what, I guess that's a wrap for the recap. Can I say it like that? Woo woo! But next year, do we have a date yet, Dan? Or
it's going to be in February. We don't have a lockdown date. I have an email out to Margaritaville. I will say this. We are going to cap attendance at 120. Okay. We had 103 people there this time. We were slightly oversold. So we're going to cap it at 120. I do feel like we're going to open up registration earlier this year than we did this. I think we opened in November this past year and we sold out. So we are going to open up earlier. So I'm sure that we're going to sell out. So if people are thinking about going, literally follow the page, connect with me, keep an eye on the inbox. But whenever tickets become available, go get them early. And I will say this also, for anyone that was actually at the event that scanned the code, I did reopen that link. I know I gave you 48 hours. I realized that most of you were traveling back, and that was probably a terrible 48 hours to give you to get your pre-sale tickets for those that were in attendance. I open it back up. You can actually go get your pre-sale tickets for next year at the event price that I shared up until the 5th at 5 p.m. Pacific. So, but yeah, it's going to sell out again. So if you want to be there, be part of it, you got to get there, but get in early because we're capping it at 120 next year.
Yeah. It was oversold. It wasn't sold out. It was oversold.
It was oversold. And like an airline,
love it.
There's tables getting brought in, like people buying tickets at the last minute. I'm like, all right, we'll just come on in. There's enough learning for everybody. So
gotta love it. Well, hey, thank you guys for coming on. Dan, thank you again. Kendra and everybody else that participated in this. Don't miss out. All I can say is sign up.
That's right.
All right. See you guys in 26.